Hey, it's Chris. How much the iPhone 13 appeals to you is largely going to depend on which phone you currently own. In this video, I'm going to help you map out whether or not it makes sense for you to upgrade to an iPhone 13, while also touching on all of your buying options if you want to buy a brand new iPhone. Basically, I've done a bunch of in-depth research and I'm presenting it to you on a silver platter. Let me start off by saying that iOS 15, which is going to be available to download on September 20th, will be compatible with iPhones going all the way back to the iPhone 6S and the original iPhone SE. So if you bought your iPhone all the way back in 2015 or 2016 and you want to squeeze out just a little extra life from it, then you're still going to be able to take advantage of some fun new software features this year. And same obviously goes for people who own an iPhone 7, 8, 10, 10S, 10R, 11, or SE2. Now, if that's you, you can download iOS 15 for free and enjoy some brand new features like SharePlay or the new focus modes, better notifications, live text, visual lookup, and many others without even spending a single dime, which is pretty cool. That said, research done by a firm called Piper Sandler lets me know that about 45% of people are going to be upgrading now that their phone is 3 to 5 years old. Now, if that's you and you buy your iPhone between 2016 and 2018, then I can basically tell you with certainty that upgrading to the iPhone 13 is a no-brainer. Now, for the 27% or so of you that are on a 2-year upgrade cycle and you snag either an iPhone 11 or an SE2 back in 2019, there's still a lot for you to like here. But I do want to let you know that the iPhone 13 lineup is basically an iPhone 12s in all but name. Now, for the about 28% of you that are yearly upgraders, obviously you're gonna snag the iPhone 13, but I'm gonna do my best in the last half of this video to kind of help you understand what the real difference makers are between devices. Also, for those of you considering switching from Android, I recently made a video that really highlighted the differences and especially explained why iPhones seem so similar year over year when Androids seem to be getting crazy new exciting features oftentimes, which I think does a pretty good job of explaining why you might want to get an iPhone over an Android and vice versa. Now, before we get any further, I have to point out the iPhone 13s are not the only new iPhones you have to choose from. That's because Apple still sells the latest iPhone SE, which starts at $399, the iPhone 11, which starts at $499, and the non-pro iPhone 12, so the mini and the regular, which start at $599. Now, I'm trying to make this comprehensive, so I'm gonna put some timestamps down in the description so you can skip around. If you just wanna get to what the differences are between the iPhone 13 models, you can skip ahead, but I wanna start at the very low end of new iPhones that you can buy and work up to the top end and kind of point out what you get as you upgrade. So the low end iPhone SE is not pretty to look at, but it's got a noticeably bigger screen than the original, and it can still snap portrait mode photos. It's the core iPhone experience in its most bare bones form, but it's more capable than most people realize. For $100 more than the iPhone SE, the iPhone 11 looks a lot better, has a much bigger screen, adds an ultra-wide camera, upgrades you from Touch ID to Face ID, and has a definite edge in battery life with 4 hours of additional video playback, even though it shares the same A13 Bionic chip as the iPhone SE. See, that iPhone SE is more of a beast than you thought. If you're willing to spend $200 more, then the iPhone 12 bests the iPhone 11 by adding 5G, by shooting video in gorgeous Dolby Vision HDR, and by packing in a better chip, the A14. It's also a bit tougher, having picked up the ceramic shield feature, and it gains MagSafe compatibility, which makes it compatible with some cool and useful accessories. Now, before we get to the iPhone 13s, let me just say, if you're liking the vibe of this video, why not hit subscribe? Because I've got my unboxings and my reviews coming up. All right, well, let's get to the iPhone 13s themselves. We've got the iPhone 13 mini, which starts at $699, the regular iPhone 13, which starts at $799, the 13 Pro, which starts at $999, and the 13 Pro Max, which starts at $1,099. Now, we're about to dig deep into the details here, but before we do, I just want to give a little pep talk to the yearly upgraders who are feeling a little bit disappointed. And if this doesn't apply to you and you don't want to hear it, just skip ahead. To certain enthusiasts, this might have felt like kind of a boring launch this year. I mean, the first feature that Apple shows off in its iPhone 13 intro video was water resistant, not exactly jaw-dropping stuff. And even the pros are largely just about camera upgrades. Again, let's just cut through the crap. The iPhone is a tool, and it's a tool that we use to get stuff done. And for the types of tasks that we get done using an iPhone, the iPhone 13 is absolutely going to crush it. If the iPhone folded in half, would it change what you do with an iPhone? Not really. So boring? A little. Reliable? A ton. And would I rather have a reliable workhorse over a gimmicky show pony? Yeah. Any day of the week. And while the iPhone 13s look very familiar, much better storage options, a faster processor, up to double the refresh rate, and serious camera and battery life improvements aren't nothing. These are things that can make a real difference in real life. So if you're looking to upgrade to the iPhone 13, should you go with a mini, a regular, or a Pro? Okay, displays. First of all, the notch is still with us. Doesn't matter which model you get. It's a little less wide and actually a little taller, but that should not impact your decision in any way, shape, or form. Basically, I just wanted to mention it. The biggest draw this year for a lot of people is gonna be that the Pro models have 120 Hz ProMotion displays that can intelligently adapt to the content on your screen. Basically, scrolling and motion is gonna be more fluid and enjoyable on the Pros versus the Mini and the regular. Because the Mini and the regular are still stuck at 60 Hz, like the iPhone 12 models, which if you're coming from a 60 Hz display is completely livable. But if you're technology fiend, or if you're coming from a device that already had 120 Hz, then you might want to pump the brakes. This is one of those things that really doesn't matter until it does. Once you've had it, then everything else is ruined. Size-wise, the dimensions and the resolutions haven't changed since the AMOLEDs on the iPhone 12s. Something that is different though is brightness. Versus the 12, the 13s are 28% brighter, so almost a third brighter. And brightness is one of those things that really does make a difference. Obviously for watching HDR content, for starters, but also more practically just when you're outside. The Pro models this year have higher peak brightness than the regular and mini, so keep that in mind. And if you've ever been outside on a really sunny day and you've struggled to see what's on your screen, especially when there's lots of reflections happening, then the Pro models are supposed to be 25% brighter outside as well. The batteries in this year's lineup are physically bigger than the previous models, and when you combine that with the new chips, that does equal noticeably improved battery life. The regular and the mini 13s are gonna give you 1.5 hours of extra battery life compared to their 12 counterparts, and the Pros are gonna increase that up to 2.5 hours longer versus the previous models. Now, of course, battery life just does degrade over time, so starting with more capacity by going for one of the Pro models this year could be a good idea if you're planning on hanging onto this phone for several years to come. For context, I would consider myself a power user. I had the 12 Pro Max last year, and almost every day I ended up in low power mode. On the other hand, my wife had the 12 Mini and never, ever ended up in low power mode. So now if you were hoping that the 13s would charge faster than the 12s, well, they won't. As with the 12s, you're still gonna get 15 watt and 20 watt wireless and wired charging. And yes, there are Android phones that absolutely crush the iPhone when it comes to charge times, but if you're plugging this in overnight anyways, every night, it doesn't really matter. Please keep in mind, whether you get the Mini, the regular, or a Pro, you're not gonna get a charging brick in the box. Again, the only thing that's coming in the box is a USB-C to Lightning cable. So if you need to pick up a brick, I will link one for you down in the description. On the storage front, we can all throw a party to mark the end of iPhones with a base level of 64 gigs of storage. And with the new iPhone 13 models, the base storage is now 128 gigs, even though the price hasn't changed. On the non-Pro models, you can upgrade to 256 or 512 gigs. And if you plan on keeping this phone for several years to come, I would push you towards at least getting that mid-tier of storage. Why? Because software updates come out every single year, and you want to be able to take advantage of the cool new features, and also apps, they improve over time. They get bigger, especially games. Also a factor is the fact that Apple still only allows for 5 free gigs of iCloud storage. Still, it's been that way since 2011. Here we are 10 years later, you still get 5 gigs for free. I guess another way to look at it is whether or not you want to upgrade your iCloud account later on and pay for more storage on a month-by-month basis, or if you just want to front load it, get that extra storage space now. Just build it into the hardware. The Pro models are on a whole different level here because you can upgrade those all the way up to 1 terabyte of storage. Wow, right? But trust me, if you plan on taking advantage, especially of the video-centric Pro camera features that are new this year, you're gonna need that 1 terabyte of storage. Now, all the new iPhone 13 models use the A15 Bionic processor, but the Pro models do have an additional GPU core, so 5 versus 4, which mostly comes into play when you're accessing the new camera features, when you're looking at AI or machine learning tasks. But on the practical side, you'll probably also end up with a bit smoother performance when it comes to graphically intensive apps. So if you're really into gaming, I'd probably steer you towards the Pros, but not just for that extra core, mostly for that extra battery life. Okay, let's hit the cameras. Now, this is where we're gonna see some significant differences between the pros and the non-pros. Now, let's refresh our minds here, okay? Because it's easy to get stuck in the mindset that we get an iterative camera update every year when it comes to the iPhones. But that's not the case this year. The camera updates are actually pretty significant. It's like when the iPhone 11 came out, its camera enhancements were significantly better than the iPhone XS. The hardware wasn't all that different, but the output was much better. I feel like it's kind of the same thing here. This isn't just a little leap forward, it's actually a pretty big jump forward in camera capabilities, especially for the pros. When we're talking about phone cameras, I just want to point out that Apple really isn't known for playing the raw resolution game like certain Android manufacturers. Instead, Apple tends to prioritize bigger pixels. So we still have 12 megapixels, but what that means, if this all sounds Greek to you, is better low light performance combined with squeezing the most out of software enhancements. So in photography, and when it comes to video too, more light can make a big difference. So the non-Pro 13s have the biggest sensor Apple's ever used in a dual camera phone, and that lets in 50% more light than the iPhone 12s. Personally, I'm pretty excited about that because for the average iPhone photographer out there, your average everyday person, noise and grain is the great ruiner or a great ruiner of our photos. And this should end up doing a lot to combat unwanted noise. For context, it's been 3 years since Apple upgraded the iPhone's camera sensors across all the models back in 2018. Now last year, the iPhone 12 Pro Max alone got a 47% bigger sensor, and that was the main reason why I got myself a 12 Pro Max last year, and it performed like an absolute beast in low light situations. Like I could actually use it for professional uses, things I make money with. Additionally, sensor shift optical image stabilization that first appeared on the 12 Pro Max last year has now made its way to the non-Pro iPhones. And that basically translates into crisper images even under less than ideal circumstances, especially when your target or yourself is moving around when you're trying to take a picture. And then of course there's the new cinematic video mode, which is kind of like portrait mode photos, but for videos, but way smarter. And depending on how well it works, it could be really cool. So stay tuned for my review. All right, let's dig into the Pro cameras specifically here. Now, one thing that's important to know, this has been a question a lot of people have been asking me, but the camera systems on the Pros are identical. So this year, you don't have to upgrade to the Max for the best camera experience. This year, the Pros can do macro photography, and that's a Pro exclusive feature, which I think is gonna come in handy here and there, but this is not something that most people are gonna end up using on a daily basis. The 13 Pros, of course, have 3 cameras instead of just 2, like the Mini and the regular 13s, meaning they have not just a wide and an ultra wide, but they also have a telephoto. And I would say that if you've never had the telephoto before, not getting it this year, so if you just get a regular 13 or the Mini, is gonna be fine. You won't miss it because you never had it. But once you've had it, you don't wanna be without it. It's that kind of thing. For a very simple reason, the difference between digital zoom and optical zoom is night and day. Importantly, all 3 of the Pro cameras now have night mode, which is really nice in my opinion. It's something that I would genuinely appreciate having. Also, the cameras on the Pros are just faster. They let in more light than the non-Pros, like 92% improvement in terms of light gathering. It's significant. Also, the pixel size on the Pros here is believed to be the largest in any modern smartphone from my research at 1.9 micrometers versus just 1.7 on the 12 Pro Max. The Pro models have really nice video specs for a phone. They can shoot 4K 30 in ProRes, but you're only shooting 4K 30 ProRes as long as you don't get the 128 gig storage option, because that's gonna limit you to 1080p, which is pointless in my opinion. If you're gonna go Pro and shoot video, you gotta upgrade the storage. And let's just say, if you don't know what ProRes is right now, then you don't need it. Of course, that cinematic video mode is only gonna be that much better on the Pro camera system. And if you're gonna use your phone to shoot ProRes video in cinematic mode with Dolby Vision, trust me, you're absolutely gonna want that 1 terabyte storage upgrade. All right, so conclusion time. If you're considering upgrading this year, I mean, you're getting an awesome iPhone. just nothing super unexpected. I'm guessing that the majority of people who are upgrading this year are doing so because they need to. I also want to cautiously sound the alarm that this might be the last year that we have a mini in the lineup. So if you're all about the mini, you might want to go ahead and grab one. But hopefully this video took a little bit different angle than other videos out there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, let me know what you're gonna get down below, or why you're upgrading, why you're not upgrading. I'm real interested. Also, I'll link these things up down below, including that charging brick that I recommend, so you can check out the current pricing depending on when you watch this video. Don't forget, I've got a podcast, and I like to talk about all kinds of things on there. Follow-ups to the videos, some behind-the-scenes information, just Apple news. So if you want to connect with me there, I would love to talk with you. People say it's kind of like hanging out with a friend. That's kind of the vibe. So that's linked up down below too, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Oh, but don't forget to subscribe, because my unboxing and reviews are going to be coming up, along with some other unboxings and reviews, other comparison videos, all kinds of Apple lifestyle content, and you don't want to miss it. Later.